Welcome to the Chain Out Podcast with your hosts, Jeremy and Daryl.
Hey everybody, welcome to Chain Out Podcast, episode 49. Jeremy here. With me as always is your favorite co-host, Daryl. How's it going, pal?
Doing fantastic, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Repping the Edgar. It's getting cold. Had to put a hoodie on.
And here I am wearing a jersey.
Wow.
Representing some other Canadian MPOs with my Miguel Alvarado Cardinal jersey on.
Some people are just made of stronger things, Jeremy.
It must be. What is that? Is that it? You're actually complimenting me?
Okay, let me timestamp that.
Yeah, we got to mark that one. That's got to be a saved and replayed part of the podcast for sure.
Yeah.
So, Daryl, I want to start this one off. Mm-hmm. You know our good buddy.
So, before you started off, sorry.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome everybody in the chat. Alex is in the chat. Alex Penny, guest
Alex.
of the show.
Yeah.
Dylan and Mike Carey. I'm sure Sonia's in the chat as well.
What a good start. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We hope to have an awesome show for you.
Yeah.
And I was going to start by talking about our good buddy, Miles of Discs, Miles Ladder.
Yeah.
The guy pumps out content like nobody's business.
He does. He's good.
He joined us for one of our Fantasy Picks episodes. Mm-hmm. He ended up winning a BR Disc Golf gift certificate. And then he went and put out a little video with his mail call.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a few things from Brendan, or a couple things. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I'm going to follow in Miles's lead and I'm going to make my own little video. So I made my video. I opened my boxes, tried to just give it a little bit of chain out flair to it. I sent it over to you. And what did you think?
There was a little bit of editing and a little bit of adjustments that needed to be made. But other than that, it was passable.
With a question mark on the end of that sentence. So anyways, yes. So maybe that will stay in the vault, my little video of me doing a BR mail call. But I thought, why not do a little one live on the air tonight?
Yeah.
So I want to thank Brendan because he took care of me. I put in an order, got it mailed out to me. He had some new MVP Axiom Streamline come in. Got myself a new wave, my first wave.
When I used to throw MVP, wave was a great disc. I used to love throwing that disc.
I heard, you used to flex this one nicely, right? Nice S-curve to it.
Yeah.
So I got myself a wave.
Yeah.
And then
the piece de resistance.
A James Conrad 2021 World Champion Trail.
It's the disc that everybody's talking about.
The one that people are chatting about.
Yeah.
And one other thing about Brendan, what he's always good for is maybe throwing a little sticker or something in there. I didn't bring the sticker, but he did give us something to help us with the podcast.
Nice.
And that was a couple BR disc golf coasters. So if you'd like, you can put your beer on that.
You know, we always like a drink while we're doing the podcast.
We do. Cheers.
Cheers. That's vodka.
No. Actually, to give you the story, my beer froze, so I'm drinking some water right now.
Right.
So there we go. We got that going on. Do you got anything else happening there, Daryl? Or what do you got to say? That was my thing, was my mail call.
Yeah. You know, I haven't gotten out to play disc golf very much this week. Yeah, surprising. When the weather is getting colder, hence why I'm wearing a hoodie.
Right.
The leaves are falling. The colors are changing. We know, I'm not going to say it, the white stuff.
It could be
will
coming.
Be around soon enough, but the nights are getting darker.
Yeah. Well, I think Alex could probably attest to the fact that in some parts of our province, the white stuff has already found its way there. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, I know we're in the 49th episode and we want to focus on that, but I am getting excited, Daryl, because next week is our 50th episode.
I know. I can't believe it.
Yeah. 50 episodes, and you will have been, I don't want to jinx it yet because I know we got one more to go.
Hey,
you will have been on every single one.
50 episodes. I haven't missed one. Jeremy's missed
2.
No, you only missed 1. Oh, no, you missed 2.
Yeah.
You've missed 2 episodes, but you did a pre-record for the other one.
That's
so,
right.
I mean, that's not really technically a miss. We just recorded earlier, but 50 episodes without missing a beat. Mm-hmm. Does that just mean that I don't have a life? I don't do anything?
I think it's your dedication, your wanting to hone your craft and just be the best podcaster you could be. 50 episodes straight.
Yeah, but could you imagine if I didn't show up for the 50th?
I know. I don't know what would happen.
Can't believe it. It's almost been a year. It's hard to think that we started we actually started prior to this, because there's 5 or 6 episodes that'll go in the vault that may come out at some point in the future. But those are the ones that we started with. So actually, we started earlier than this. We've been doing it for over a year.
Yeah, I would say over a year. And there's some of those early ones, like you said, is maybe we'll pull them out. I don't know. Maybe we'll pull out a sample. So what we want to tell you is that for the 50th episode next week, you want to tune in. We're not going to have any guests on live. It's going to be Daryl and I. We're going to tell you a lot about what's happened in the last 50 episodes, share some of our favorite moments. We've reached out to some of the guests and gotten their ideas. We hope it to be just a great, almost like a clip show of sorts with a little flavor and some promises of what's to come.
Yeah. I'm going to throw it out to the chat while we're here. If you have any favorite parts of the podcast that you can remember, certain pieces of clips and things that have happened, let us know in the comments, and we'll definitely give it a shout out next week.
Yeah. And I know as I've been loading some of them up, Daryl, I've got one behind the scenes one that people haven't seen before, just to show maybe the fun that we tend to have when we get going and trying to record shorts and reels and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, why don't we tell our listeners what we're going to be talking about tonight?
Why don't we do that, Jeremy? Yeah. This past weekend, we had the 11th Canadian A tier, which was the Ontario Provincials. So we're going to be doing a recap of that.
Yeah. And it was our last Fantasy Picks recap show that we've got going on tonight. So we're going to crown this year's A tier fantasy winner.
Interesting. I'm going to be looking forward to that.
I'm sure you are.
We're going to be recapping the Halloween Rad Glow Doubles.
Yeah.
And or those words, but in that order, somewhere in that order.
Mixed match, something like that. And then we're going to get into the interviews, of course. So we've got our first interview with the Ontario Provincials Tournament Director, Spencer Yooung.
Yeah. We also had a chance to sit down with Chantel Budinsky earlier. She wasn't available tonight, so we pre-recorded that, but you'll see that interview coming up later.
Yes, and then we're going to finish things off with the MPO winner. Thomas Gilbert will join us live. And then after that,
we'll finish it off with our thank yous, secret words, and our sweet old chain outs.
Sweet, sweet chain outs.
And if for people that don't know what we're talking about, stay tuned to the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, we mentioned those fantasy picks, Jeremy.
Yeah, you might as well get to it.
We've been doing it all. We've been doing it all year. For those of people that don't know, I mean, if you don't know anything about it, then you haven't been following us on Instagram. We did a fantasy league for every Canadian A tier. We had special guests on the episodes, put our teams out on Instagram, got the listeners to vote on our teams to who they thought was going to be the best. Mm-hmm. We had a point structure. It's been really good for us because we've been able to learn about some players that we wouldn't have normally known about, especially some Eastern players as well.
Yeah.
But as I say, this past weekend was the Ontario Provincials. We made our picks. Mm-hmm. I'm going to bring the picks up, but you know where to look. All you want to do is you want to look down at the bottom. Team Shambles with the win again. Could not defeat Chris Ozelins Chris Ozelins could not defeat Team Shambles. He was our special guest, Team Bobby Starbucks.
Yes, and if you didn't watch that, check it out. I tried my best, guys. I got Chris Ozelins, MPO player from Ontario. He's part of the Ontario Disc Golf. What is the Ontario Flying
Mafia?
Yeah, pretty much. He's done everything. He knows the players. I thought
ODSA is what you're trying to.
That's
Ontario
right.
Disc Sports Association.
You got it.
Yeah.
So we had him on. I thought he was going to be able to take Daryl down, and he was actually maybe impressed with our knowledge.
He was, yeah. Yeah, exactly. But as I say, he just didn't have the, you know what it was. I think he had one or two picks with his heart.
He did pick with his heart, but his heart picks actually worked pretty good too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But if you take those points, we'll add them to the point standings for the 11 A tiers. And you see that Team Shambles maintained the lead. It got close for a while, and it's still pretty close. 22 points separating third place J-Pal to first place Team Shambles. Team Guest Invite did pretty good, 101 points, but they were not just able to pull out the victories when it needed. Let's go to the tournament wins. Okay, so let's say Team Shambles has got it locked up on points.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But there's also the tournament wins.
Yeah. Oh.
Team Shambles takes down the win there as well with 8 wins. Team Guest Invite had 5 wins and Team J-Power had 1. For those adding those all up, they add up to more than 11, but that's because we had a few ties.
But
Yeah.
there is one more thing.
There is.
What if we just let it all ride and said the fan vote is what really mattered?
Okay, I'll give you that.
Okay.
Team points don't mean anything. Tournament wins don't mean anything. Let's go for the fan vote, because that's really where it counts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think so. Oh, come on. Seriously?
Team Shambles took down the tournament, the fan vote as well.
Yeah. So
6
3
wins.
for 3 for you.
3 for 3. And the fan vote was only meant to be used in an event of a tie.
Yeah.
Team Guest Invite getting 2 wins. Team J-Pow in second place with 3 wins.
Yeah, I did have a lot of support, but I think, and rightfully so, listeners, is that as things got going and Team Shambles decided to be more of a, maybe not quite, it was almost a misnomer, not a real good name for your team. I think if people were picking Team Shambles based on the previous events, they were doing a good job.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I do find it interesting that the whole fantasy picks was your contribution and idea for the podcast, but I'll give you the big crisp high five.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So is that what I win?
Yeah, that's it.
That's what we did. We did the whole season just for a high five.
Mm-hmm. And I give you
Next
one of the
year-
2 coasters I got.
Okay, there you go.
That's a reward. Yeah.
I'll take that. Speaking of the coasters from BR, we want to thank Brendan and BR Disc Golf for their support of the fantasy episode. Every episode for people that vote on our Instagram on their favorite team, they were entered into a draw to win a gift certificate of
Anywhere from $10 to BR Disc Golf, 15, 20. That was dependent on how many points we got.
Yeah,
but we didn't really get up to 15 or 20.
Or overestimated, yeah. But thanks to Brendan for giving out that. We've given out at least
11.
Well, it will be 11 now.
Oh,
but
right.
we've given out at least 10. So that's over $100 of gift cards that we've given out to lucky winners that have voted on our Instagram teams.
Mm-hmm.
So you say we've given out 10.
Yeah.
But there's one left to do, Jeremy.
I think we should get to it.
You want to have a look?
Yeah, let's
'Cause
do
we've
it.
done it. Okay. Let's have a look and see who won this one. Oh, sorry. That was just showing you that Team Shambles actually did win
Okay,
the
so
vote.
so you've shown me all the ways you've won, and now you got to put it in our face one more time with the chart.
I think what it is, people just know that Team Shambles is going to win, so that it's a safe bet just to vote for Team Shambles.
There you go.
Yeah, right. But let's get on with the
Wheel of Fortune.
The Wheel of Fortune, the Ontario Provincials BR Disc Golf gift certificate giveaway. If you voted, or if you left a comment on YouTube, your name is on the wheel.
And who is our winner?
And it's going to be
Oh, nice.
Miss Flicky Duda.
Ah, yes.
She's a great supporter of the show.
Yeah, on Instagram, always liking our stuff, always commenting back and forth. She's been having a great year. She's more, she's kind of a beginner disc golfer like ourselves.
Yeah,
or,
FA3, I believe she is.
yeah, and she's been improving by leaps and bounds in everything that she's been posting. So congratulations. And Daryl will be reaching out to you to get you your gift card. And thanks for supporting.
Absolutely.
Now, Daryl, the days are getting shorter.
Yep.
There's less time for rounds after work.
Yep.
But there is a lot of time for glow rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you and I have both been taking advantage of it. Before I tell you how many glow rounds I've been out to, how many have you been out to?
Oh, let me, none this year, not yet. How about yourself?
Well, I feel much better now because I have not gotten out to a glow round yet, but I wanted to get out to the one that just happened on the weekend, and I wanted to talk about it because it's just an amazing event, and anybody who is out there will know. But in Edmonton, it was our 10th, I think almost 10 in a row, but there's been 10 for sure of the RAD Halloween doubles. And I didn't know what RAD stood for, but apparently you do.
Well, I found out that it stands for Rundle After Dusk. I had to think that.
Yeah, so I reached out to Joey Wilson, who is the creator and TD of the event.
Yeah.
He, halfway kind of through the 10 years, he recruited a partner in crime in Fubi.
Yep.
And the two of them have built this up to be quite an event. So what Joey had said was, in the start, was, you know how busy Rundle Park can be in Edmonton. Mm-hmm. So what he wanted to do was give us a chance to play on places in the park that you might not be able to normally play. So the best time to do that was in the fall, in the evening when nobody's at the park.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So what they've done is they've created holes around the family center, holes across water that maybe we don't normally play on, holes over the baseball backstops, things like that. And then this event has kind of taken a life of its own. So this year there was 61 players. Some of them were in costumes. And you know what? It shows. Oh, there you go. Look at this. Here's a great
that
example.
amazing?
Yeah. So what do you got there in the pictures?
So yeah, we got the Christmas themed fairway on the left, the fairway all lit up with balloons on the right, and then you have that spinning arm. What do you call it? Almost like a blocker.
Like it almost looks like it's like a goalie stick trying to stop you from putting your disc into the basket. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, do you get more than 30 seconds when you putt on that basket? So I don't know if you do, but if you probably should, because that's quite the one there.
Yeah, it takes quite a bit to set up as well, I should imagine.
Oh, I bet. And then even too, because this is so close to Halloween and it's called Halloween doubles, people are starting to dress up in costumes as well while they play. So that's a cool part about it. But you've told me how many times that you don't enter ace pots.
In tournaments, I don't enter ace pots because I don't run aces in tournaments.
Right. So now you're in a Halloween glow doubles that's been going on for 10 years and has had an ace pot. How many aces do you think have happened in the last 10 years?
Well, I should imagine the fairways and the baskets are a little bit shorter. So how many in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Oh, 10?
Yeah. Well, how about 0?
0? That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And you know when they do an ace pot, usually if they don't hit it, they might do a closest to the pin or find some other way to give away the money.
Yeah.
You know what they do with this one? They carry it over to the next year.
So there's been 10 years of no aces.
Mm-hmm. And it was $1,000 ace pot is where they were at now.
Wow.
If you can believe that.
Okay, Jeremy, we're going in next year.
That's what we're doing?
Yeah.
For sure. So I just want to say what a great event. If anybody's out there, maybe contact Joey or Fubi and get some ideas, because this would be something great to bring to Calgary, to bring out to Ontario. And if you have events like this of your own, tell us about them. We're always excited to promote them and hear more about these types of cool tournaments or events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds awesome.
Well, Daryl, shall we get to our meat and potatoes?
Let's go for it, Jeremy.
Okay. Our first guest is quite the disc golfer, a PDGA member since 2021. He plays MA1. He plays MPO. He's played 55 events and has 9 career wins. He played Ledgestone and Canadian Nationals this year, which are both big trips from Ontario. And on top of all that, he still found time to be the tournament director of the Ontario Provincial Disc Golf Championships. Let's welcome Spencer Yooung to the show.
Hey, Spencer, how are you doing? Okay, you might be muted. We can't hear you.
I was muted. I muted myself.
like the professional that you are, right? You didn't want to ruin anything. You just mute yourself before you come on.
Yeah, that's kind of how I go. But Jeremy,
go.
I seen your mail call there, but I do got to show off my trail. I think it might be.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
1 second. Sorry, Spencer.
Look at that.
Wow.
Yeah, I just seen yours. That's my new one. So
tell us a little bit about that one. It's got a great design on it with the blue and the orange. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so She Dizer is a local company to me here in Ontario. They're about 30 to 45 minutes away. And they were coming up to our event and sponsored the event and did some amazing dies on our player pack discs from MVP.
Okay.
So there was a trail, and I've been trying it out. Definitely a fantastic disc. And when I seen that one, it was absolutely going in the bag as soon as I got my hands on it. So.
Well, that's great to hear, because we've heard so much about that disc, and I'm so excited to have one in my hands. When we were at Canadian Nationals, a buddy of mine had just bagged it and then tried it once or twice in a practice round, and actually it made his bag for the tournament just because of the practice round.
Oh, yeah, they're just... I've been throwing it for a couple weeks now. I used it at one of my previous events, and some of the shots it unlocked me to throw was just... There's not much you can get with it. It's almost like a really like a beat-in destroyer that's been
Okay.
beat in for the last decade almost right out of the box.
Sweet.
So, like,
Wow.
really good disc.
Well, as I was going through the introduction for you there, Spencer, I was getting a little bit tired at everything that you've done this year. And what I didn't do is I didn't mention that you were also the TD of the Winter Thaw Early Bird this year and the White Spruce Open. How are you fitting that all in your year?
It's a long year for sure. So the Early Bird was a tournament we started. It's going to be going on its 4th year coming up this next spring. And it just started as a fun joke, actually, between me and my brother, saying like, "Oh, let's run a tournament when he gets back home from work." So he was working out west, and then all of a sudden it blew up into what it's become. So that's kind of my early year project, and then the White Spruce Open is the middle year project, sprinkled in between a couple other C tiers throughout the year. And then I also did another B tier in September, and then finally ended the year, actually with my first ever A tier in the Ontario Provincials last weekend. So very busy year on top of playing almost every week on top of a full-time job. I always say this to a couple other TDs. I don't know how I keep doing this to myself, but
Yeah.
I keep doing it.
Well, I'm sure Ontario's glad you have as well. But I think what we got to ask you is, how are you doing? Have you recovered? Are you rested? Did you finally get some rest here or what?
Sadly, no. I'm still kind of running on low gas. The 2 weeks leading up to the event were a lot of getting things prepared, a lot of late night calls, kind of getting everything together with Corey Murdoch, who is one of the 2 assistant TDs, along with Mariah Smith, and then of course the ODSA president Chris Ozolins. He stepped up in a big way and helped us out this year with a lot. So there was a lot of calls between the 4 of us, getting things ready to go, and then we had Monday to tear down the temp course, and then Tuesday was right back to reality, waking up very early in the morning to go back to work. So still no time to rest. Hopefully this weekend is a little bit of a resting weekend to recover.
Well, we really appreciate you then fitting us into your schedule too, because we're delaying that recovery, I'm sure.
Probably a little bit, but in the end, I'd probably still be awake at this point.
There you go. So Ontario Provincials this year, they were held out in Muskoka. And when I was doing my research, I tried to do my best. I was kind of going back a little bit on Ontario Provincials, seeing where it's been held. And I could see that it was in Brantford, Ontario. It was in Bourget. It was in Waterloo and Caledonia, Peterborough, even my hometown of London. But this is the second time in the last 3 years it's been out in Muskoka. What's brought it back up to that area?
So back in 2022, Wolf Tracks was opened up at Bondi Resort. So Wolf Tracks is, I would argue, one of the premier championship level courses in Ontario. There's a couple others like Project 15, and Hope Goat, which are going to host nationals next year. But Wolf Tracks alone has kind of been a standout course in Ontario for a bit. So in 2022, when it opened, the ODSA was still kind of looking for a community to step up and run provincials. So that's kind of the reason it came up the first year. So at the time, we were looking at only doing one course, but then Limberlost Links, which is now one of the premier kind of our courses for the event in Ontario or in Muskoka there, went from a 9-hole to an 18-hole just to support more players for provincials.
Awesome.
So we went from having one championship level course to having 2, one pro level and then one like very good amateur level course. So that was 2022. In 2023, my team decided that we were going to do Northern Ontario Championships to kind of give a break from provincials instead of having it up every year. So we did Northern Ontario Championships, which then we brought in the Huntsville Downs course, which was a temp course at the time. So we set that up, had a great experience, learned a lot because that was the first time I'd ever done a 3-course event. We made a lot of mistakes, and I will admit that myself, and we took a lot of feedback from players. And I understand we had a very great time as a TV staff for that because the players were understanding that we were going and stepping into an adventure we've never tried before. So we learned, we improved on that, and then brought Provincials back this year, brought in a couple more extra sets of hands, brought Chris Ozolins in to help with the Huntsville Downs. We redesigned about half the holes, maybe a little bit more than half. And then had the event this year, and it kind of has been just a slowly progressing adventure in Muskoka or Huntsville itself. And then this year also at Provincials, we did a preview with the designer of Wolf Tracks for another championship level course that's going to be built in the area. So maybe in future years we'll have some more surprises for players.
Nice.
Yeah. So you mentioned the courses there. Do you want to give us a little bit of a breakdown of what type of courses they are? So you got you said the Wolf Tracks at Bondi. You got the Huntsville Downs golf course. So that's the temp course?
That's the temp course. So Huntsville Downs is a golf course that closes on Thanksgiving. So they are very nice to us. Let us use the course for that week leading up, and then the weekend. So that is a temp course that I myself and a local Jeff Mann designed in 2023. And then this year, we kind of reworked it with Chris to kind of change up the holes, to challenge players, to fix some of the feedback we had gotten about it. So that's more of a golf style, using elevation, kind of more OB. There's a lot more OB there than the other courses. Then Wolf Tracks is a wooded open course. It's a very hybrid course that honestly, if you love wooded golf, you'll enjoy. If you love open golf, you'll enjoy. It's kind of got everything. It is the perfect piece of land for disc golf. Like,
nice.
You can't be upset with it. You're going to enjoy every round that you play there. There's no bad holes. It's just a fantastic course overall. And then Limberlost Links is kind of more of our amateur side course. Still very challenging. And it sits right along a lake on the side of a hill and goes down to the woods. It's these 3 courses, I will argue, scenic-wise, this time of year for Provincials, there is nothing like it almost anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's right during the peak color change that we had the event. It was summer weather, but we had frost delays in the morning, so it made the weekend itself. The weather was outstanding for playing. A little bit tricky on the TV side of it, but if you ever have time to make a trip, Muskoka is the area to go. It's just becoming a mecca of disc golf in Ontario. Like, I think within 45 minutes, there's 6 18-hole courses. I might be a little off. There's a lot of really great courses in such a close area. It's we're just lucky to kind of have it, and it's a perfect place for a tournament.
No, that's awesome. And, we saw some of the Instagram photos from whether it was Brooklyn O'Krafka up there or Thomas Gilbert, Chantel, Rebecca Dawn, all of them. They were posting on Instagram, and you could see the colors. And I would tell you that they look good on there, but being a person who's from Ontario and now living in Alberta, if you've lived in Alberta your whole life, you've got to get out to Ontario in the fall, because you will see colors you've never seen, the brightest reds and the oranges and yellows. And it looks like, as you said, that really came out for these events.
Well, funny enough, with Limberlost, with it being on the lake and it is one of the most gorgeous kind of backdrops you can have. So we even had the problem this year, kind of as a TD staff, that we were having leafers or people that were just coming coming out for the color change were so many people that they were actually overflowing onto the course, which did become a challenge for us. But that just puts in perspective how wonderful they are, that people are traveling hours and hours just to see this color change. And our players were playing disc golf in the middle of it. So it's just, we got so lucky this year that the Leafs held on for so long.
Yeah.
Perfect amount for the event. And now they're just dropping like crazy. So it's, we really drew the jackpot with this year's event when it comes to the weather and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
Well, and then this year, how many players ended up coming out to the Ontario Provincials? How many were playing?
so we had, I believe, 231 players come out this year's event over, I'm going to say 21 or 22 divisions.
Oh, wow.
I know we had a couple new Ontario records, I'm going to say, with this division sizes. I know one that pops out is FA50. I think we almost had 12 FA50 players, which
Wow.
That's
I've not
awesome.
even seen.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see. We had, for the first time, I believe, in Ontario, we had an FA70 champion crowned.
Wow. Nice.
So it's amazing to see kind of all these players out, and it's not just your pros, it's your amateurs, your age protected, your juniors.
Yeah.
We had 2 world champions out. That's kind of a little brag we have in Ontario. So
Yeah.
with Nico and Jane. So we had a ton of players over 3 courses. It was an absolutely amazing event from our side. It seemed like everyone enjoyed themselves. And we even had spectators come out and play side events, because we had 2 local courses running little side events during out the tournament. So I believe throughout those, we had 150 rounds played throughout the side events on top of the tournament rounds. So it was just a weekend of disc golf wherever you looked in Huntsville. It was it was gorgeous. I can't complain whatsoever.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. So what you're mentioning about the players there, why don't we talk a little bit about how you actually get into the event? Because we understand it's not just a regular sign up.
No, this is the second year the Ontario Provincials has been a qualification-based an event.
Yeah.
So there was, I believe, 16 or 17 Ontario Tour events throughout the year. Speaking of White Spruce was one of them, where the top 3 in each division would qualify for provincials, and so you couldn't just sign up. You had to have qualified throughout the year. So I know there was many players that went to 5, 6, 7 different events just to qualify, and that way it kind of promoted one, playing all these local events. You couldn't just sign up for the big one at the end of the year. But then when you got to that championship level event, you were competing against the best of the best from every region in Ontario, because that tour kind of spanned it everywhere. So
Right.
I know there was events in Muskoka, there was events in Ottawa, London, Windsor, kind of throughout Ontario. You had to go to these events to qualify. So that's
Oh.
kind of why there was a shrunken field, but everyone that was there was meant to be there, and that's how we had such strong competitions and divisions. There was not really many blowout divisions. A lot of them came down to the final day. A lot of them were final holes, kind of playoffs in the end. So it kind of promotes that competition and these other events throughout Ontario. So it's not typical A tier where everyone can just sign up. So that's kind of a cool feature of it.
Yeah.
No, I really like that. And I know, Daryl and I have both been playing disc golf just for a short period of time as well. And I know in the past there have been Alberta Provincials, but we haven't seen one in the time since we started playing. So just listening to everything you're saying about it sounds like a great event and a great way to organize an end of the year event in your local area. So maybe we'll have one of those coming up. Edga, Calgary Disc Golf Association, hopefully you're listening. So.
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of work. I have to give credit to the ODSA. Jane Renton, in particular, she compiled all the qualifiers, I think, alongside Ryan Bevilacqua. They did all the competitors, tracked every event, and made it very simple. They would send it to me or another person on our team, and we would upload the invitations like that. So we didn't have to do a ton of the dirty work thing. Like it would have been a very difficult, but there was definitely people behind the scenes that made that whole process a lot easier.
Okay.
Nice.
Now, we did hear a lot, too, that Ontario and Eastern Canada, when they do their A-tiers and they do their tournaments, they do them right. They put together these amazing player packs and things like that. Obviously, you were showing us there that She Dies Her Disc had some discs going. Did we see, too, that there was... Did you guys do player cards, or was that a digital or a physical thing? What was that I was seeing online where each player kind of had a card going? Did you see that?
I think I did see that. That's one of the local... or not local, one of the artists from Niagara was putting together those. I don't know if he did everyone. He was just putting together. I think I know what you're talking about, like the Hums, Alicia and Thomas Hums posted. Yeah, so I believe that was an artist doing it on the side.
So I think now that you say that, it was Judge Havoc that I saw
posting
them.
Yeah.
So he was just doing those on his own to add to the event?
For fun, yeah. I didn't even really realize they were happening until after the event. Typically, once the day finished, we went back, put our phones down, and tried to get some sleep. So I wasn't paying attention too much online stuff. But after seeing them, they do look really cool. That might be a cool idea for the future. That's for sure.
Cool. And then you did mention that the colors and stuff were looking good over the weekend. But how was the weather itself? Did it hold up? Or did you get rain? Did you get wind? What was it like?
So it was a tale of the morning and the afternoon, I would say. So when we were getting up to start our days, I was the TD over at Huntsville Downs. So I was dealing with the golf course. The other two, Corey was at Wolf Tracks, and then Mariah was at Limberlost. And they kind of went by their normal schedule that we put out. But at the Downs, we kind of had a fun adventure because we had frost delays every single morning until about 10 a.m.
Okay.
So it was cold enough. In some mornings, very cold. It got down to like -6, -7.
Wow.
But at this time of year, that's pretty cold. By the time I would start teeing people off at 10:30, it would be 12 to 15 degrees. It was just...
Okay.
For the players itself, gorgeous to play in. From a tournament standpoint, definitely caused a little bit more headaches because we had some days run long because we were teeing off 2 hours after intended. And it just, overall, definitely did get windy. But for the golf course, I don't know exactly the conditions at the other two courses, but for the golf course, it definitely made the course play way more challenging.
Okay.
With the wind, because it seemed like every tee you stepped up to, and I could feel it from where I was standing, it would just be a headwind. And then when you flipped to throw the other way, the wind would flip and be a headwind still. Or it was. I definitely heard a lot of people lose discs in water, and as much as that, I feel bad for the players. It's kind of what we intend to happen. So we're a little evil that way.
Well, it is a championship, right? And you want to give them a challenge. So if the weather cooperates and makes it a little more difficult, that's kind of what you're looking for. So.
Exactly. It was kind of the perfect. I think someone drew the lottery and won the lottery for our weather, because I don't know if you could ask for better. Like, I know there was people playing in shorts and t-shirt in late October in Huntsville, which typically has got some snow by now or close to it. So it's just perfect. It was everything we could ask for.
Yeah. I was going to ask you how the event went, and like, did you have any? Did everything go according to plan? But I guess if you're teeing off 2 hours late, but is there anything else that did everything else fall into place?
I would say so. It's when you're running an event of that size, things are bound to go wrong.
Right.
So I have a few inside jokes with other TDs that when you feel like everything's running right, something is terribly wrong.
Yeah.
And I had that feeling for most of the event, besides the frost delays. But it just seemed like everything was running right for once. So maybe that might be the experience of the team that I had behind myself coming through that made that possible. Or just that we might have nailed it. There was a couple little things here and there with OBs and that, but on a 3-course event, that's kind of bound to happen here and there. We got them fixed up as quickly as possible, but overall, like besides the frost delays, it was perfectly. It went just as to plan, which
Right. And
definitely is probably a first for me.
Well, like you said, the fact that you've got so much tournament experience, I guess if anything does come up, you're always able to handle it and just move on with the event, and nothing's ever going to set you back that much, right?
Well, that was. I'm funny enough among our team, probably one of the junior TDs actually. So, we speaking of my team, we had Chris and Corey, who both were premier. They didn't run this year's nationals. Last year's nationals in Thunder Bay, they were both the head of that team. So there was a ton of experience to pick from, knowledge and that to bug them with. So I had a lot of questions to kind of make this event the way it is, and plus they both were fantastic. And then speaking of experience, the Mariah, who was our Limberlost TD, actually this was her first event ever TDing. So it was an interesting kind of group to have. One of the most experienced TDs, another very experienced TD, myself, who I've dabbled now. I would say I'm getting up there in more experience, and then a brand new TD. And it kind of all worked because you had all these different mindsets and that. So definitely helped running an event of that size.
Yeah. It's probably not a bad way to run an event. You would think that, for your first event, maybe you want to start with like a league and then maybe just do a C tier and then work your way up to a B tier. No, if you go in with the A tier, you're not running the event. You're, like you said, you've got the experience to lean on, right? If you're running a league, maybe you're on your own, or a C tier, you're on your own. But coming in with an A tier, you've got other experienced TDs to lean on. So maybe it's not a bad way to start.
Definitely, and it also helps that I never actually seen Mariah herself TDing, but everyone that came over from Limberlost to me was like, she's amazing. She's doing a fantastic job. There's no issues whatsoever. She's handling everything perfectly. And I was like, that's amazing. Because I remember my first event, and there is some funny stories about my first event, but it definitely wasn't that.
Right.
So...
Well, and with that too, kind of heard a little bit of information there, maybe that you did 3 tournaments this year plus a couple others, and you've only been playing since 2021. How many tournaments do you actually have under your belt now? Not that you've played, that you've actually TD'd.
So I believe, with the PDGA, when you do a multiple day event, sometimes it splits it up. But including those splits, I think it was 24 I counted before this week. I'm going to say actual physical events, it's like 15 or 16. There's a couple split events in there, but it's definitely a lot more than someone should have under 3 years of TDing. And then I think this event was number 7 with over 200 players plus. Wow. So there's I think, this year alone, I've had almost 800 players run through my events this year. So it's there are a lot of players. So even though they might say one event, they don't feel like one. They feel like 3 or 4.
Well, we can say, right, Daryl, that the two of us have talked a number of times with the podcast and everything else about maybe starting to dabble into TD and some events. Well, I know who we're going to call when we need some advice now. That's for sure.
Maria.
Mariah.
And after
Mariah. Oh, she's fantastic. Like, I am beyond happy with how, I remember I walked up to her in September. So we had lost our 3rd TD. So I went, we were trying to find anyone that had TD'd. And I was actually at an event and walked up to her and I said, have you ever thought of TDing? And she's like, no. And I was like, do you want to be a TD at Provincials? And she kind of went, sure. So we sat down with her, talked with her, went over everything. And she's like, sure, and jumped in and was a instrumental part of our team. Helped in so many different ways, and I am beyond impressed for someone with their first event just being able to step into a provincial championship and just do really, really well. So
Well, and I'm sure she's great, and Daryl's going to have a great conversation, but trust me, Spencer, I'm calling you. So going back to the actual event, we were looking through the scores because really, even when you have a group like Park Pro or Ace Runner or someone coming out to do the filming, it doesn't always come out right away. So what we have is we have PDGA Live to follow, and we kind of take a look and see some scores and try and pick some moments that might have been exciting. And one of the ones we saw was that Abraham Neufeld hit an ace in round 2 on hole 7. Did you get to hear much about that? And what can you tell us about that hole? Was it a good ace?
So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think I'm a little cursed when it comes to aces because this is now 2 years in a row that there's been aces at the event and never at the course I'm at. So this year there was 5 aces, all at Wolf Tracks, which is a course that has very few aces. I would argue that those 5 aces match the amount of aces on the course in its entirety, kind of thing. It's very difficult to get some aces. So I heard Abe's ace on hole 7 I'm jealous of because it is a fantastic hole to ace. I've had a couple of close calls with it, but I know there was 2 aces on hole 16, 1 on hole 11, and 1 on hole 5. So that was kind of the cool thing to hear for ace-wise. But I also got to witness I think, a all-time shot for one of the FA 50 ladies who threw in from, I think, 175 feet on an elevated pin with water 6 feet behind. It was, I watched it the entire way. I was just standing there at the TD booth, and I looked over at hole 13, which is this gorgeous but insanely difficult hole. And as she steps up to throw it, kind of just glides right in and goes in. And I'm like, that was equivalent of an ace because it was just an amazing shot. But yeah, there was a lot of cool aces at Wolf Tracks, but that was kind of the Huntsville Downs thing that happened was that throw in. It was just, and of course I got to watch it too, which was extra special for me watching that.
No, that's awesome. That's definitely got to be a memorable moment on the course there. And I know those throw-ins like that, I've had the luck of having 1 or 2. They do feel like aces because you just think you're laying up or just putting one close to the basket. And then when it rings up the chains, you're like, wow, that's awesome. But besides those ones, or actually, sorry, I'll hand it over to you there. We were going to say that was a pretty memorable moment if there was any other ones on the course, but we also want to know, go ahead. Yeah.
It's a little bit of a blooper, and maybe he'll tell you about it later, but you saying layup's a funny story. So I don't know if you guys seen Thomas's reel before the event, but it's this gorgeous kind of cliff tee-off shot that you see, the colors in the background, all that. Yeah. So I'm standing there, hole 16, I walk over to the card, and I get told Thomas went on the green. And I'm like, holy cow, like that's a 600-foot shot. So I was talking to Thomas, he's like, yeah, I was trying to lay up. And I don't know how those two words ever go in the same sentence of a 600-foot shot and lay up. Yeah. But maybe if you guys bug him about that one, it would be a funny reaction because I don't know how someone does that because I'm throwing as hard as I can and I'm 150 feet short of that green and he was trying to lay up and landed on it. So that's just the other side of that coin of amazing shots. It's just, how does someone even do that?
Yeah. And that shot you're talking about, that was an amazing shot. He threw it, it went to the left, then it started to come back to the right, and then it faded back to the left again. And I'm like, how do you make this do that? I cannot make them go, I cannot get an S turn, let alone a double S.
Get a squiggle.
Well,
exactly.
I was doing a little bit of field work with him yesterday, and he's throwing these Halo Destroyers and flipping them up and turning them and coming back. And I was like, oh, let me try one. And they're just straight beefcakes. And I throw decently far, but what he does with discs is just different for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I bet. Well, that's awesome. And those are some great memorable stories on the course. But when the rounds were over and the evening hit, did you guys have any events planned? Did you guys do anything exciting, or was it kind of just everyone go back and rest and get ready for the next day?
No. So one of our goals with the event was, funny enough, to make our players feel like they couldn't do everything we had to offer.
Oh,
because I've been to a couple events. I went to one in Florida last year where it was play and then go home, and it never really felt super nice. It was kind of this, oh, I'm only here for disc golf. So Friday and Saturday night, we had evening events at a local brewery that was wonderful and hosted us.
Nice.
So on Friday night, we had a putting competition, and I watched a MA2. I think he attempted it a couple times, but ended up taking Thomas down in a putting competition to win a MVP pod. And then we had a couple others that. So we kind of had a get together after. We had the tech discs out on Saturday night, getting people throwing, kind of seeing how they throw and all that. Which those are really cool.
Yeah.
So the entire time at the event was trying to make it feel like you never were wondering what there was to do. It was always, oh, there's this or this or this to do. Let's go do something. And then by the time you got back to your Airbnb or cabin or cottage, whatever, you're like, well, I feel like I've not stopped today. That was kind of our goal as a TD team, to achieve that, because in the end, that's what makes these events so special for players.
Yeah. Well, and I could just imagine, you know, I've heard karaoke at some events and that type of thing, but when you pull out the tech disc and you play, can you spin it as fast? Can you get as many RPMs as Thomas? Can you have the exact 0 degree nose angle that Thomas can throw, or that type of thing? It would be pretty impressive to see those numbers.
I don't think you need a tech disc to know that, Jeremy. I know I can't.
Oh, it was funny because he gets there and he's throwing like half power and throwing 60 miles per hour, right? Like a decently hard. And he's like, oh, you can beat that. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like I throw 58 to 59, like decently high spin, but I'm like, I can't beat 60. And he's just laughing the entire time as I'm trying. And it's just like, I wish I could throw far.
Yeah. Well, one of the things as we kind of get closer to wrapping up the interview here, Spencer, is that we know that these moments and these events, they can't happen without volunteers and sponsors. And it's hard to name them all. We know that for sure. But we wanted to give you a moment if you wanted to shout out anybody or any unsung heroes, that type of thing.
Yeah, so sponsor-wise, MVP stepped up majorly for us this year and worked with us creating an amazing player pack alongside Towel Tag. So Towel Tag is a group out of Sault Ste. Marie who did amazing custom towels for us. I sadly don't have one with me, and I'm a little sad by that. They are gorgeous. And then also we had a bunch of local groups step up, Canvas Brewing and that, but also the town itself gave us 10 grand to even make this event possible. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to do the Huntsville Downs course. So there was a lot of contributing factors, but on the volunteer side, Thomas came out and helped out. Alyssa Saunders, she was out doing whatever I asked of her to help out with the event. We had another local, Liam. He was out every day helping us set up, tear down, whatever we needed. And a couple other locals here and there that were out for the court and stuff like that. So there was never ending amount of support from everyone, the sponsors and everything, to even make this possible. It's not just a one or 5 people effort, but this was a community effort to show off the region of Muskoka to the provincial landscape of disc golf. So.
No, that's great. And it sounds like such a good event. You've done such a good job sharing the kind of how it happened and everything that was going on, and we appreciate that. And then the last thing we want to do is, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to cover or tell everyone about, or is there anything that we missed that maybe we didn't cover?
There's nothing that comes to the top of my mind currently. I do have a little surprise if you guys want to give away some stuff. I know you guys do some giveaways.
We do love a gift giveaway.
Do have some extra player pack discs from the event. I don't mind. These are 2 of my own. Handing those off to you guys to do a giveaway with. So
that is awesome.
Yeah.
What discs are they?
I'll do that. I have a Crave, a Eclipse Crave, and a Neutron Watt.
Oh,
nice.
2 very fantastic MVP discs.
Tournament
some
stamped
fantastic
MVP
stamps.
discs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank
Yeah.
you, Spencer.
That's amazing,
No
man.
problem.
Well, and we want to say thank you for TDing all these events you're TDing. Thanks for taking the time to come on the podcast, joining us. We're so excited to meet you as another new person in our podcast time now.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to talk to you again another time.
Awesome. It sounds good. I'll talk to you guys. I'm excited to talk to you guys again in the future.
Yeah,
So
perfect. Awesome.
maybe
Thank
we'll
you
have
for
to
your
get you
time.
guys out to some Ontario events too. So
Well, we're talking about it. We've penciled nationals in. It's just time to kind of get it in a marker. And maybe if we can extend that trip, I'd love to get up to Muskoka. So,
Yeah.
well, it depends on how much free time you guys got, but I know I believe nationals is mid-September, but the Northern Ontario Championships is in Sault Ste. Marie this year. They're coming up. I don't know if they've confirmed the dates, but it's run by one of the other TDs, or Corey Murdoch, who's been my right hand for the last 3 years at in Muskoka. She's running her own event, and if you guys have time to come out to that one too, I highly recommend there. That's all these northern tournaments are like small town feel, but a lot of disc golfers, so it's wonderful.
well,
Sounds amazing.
I'm going to have to get like an RV and just take a leave of absence for a year from work. And
You could
dream.
spend a month playing disc golf in Ontario and hit all these courses, because when I went to BC, it was gorgeous, and then I'm like, all these players would love coming here because it's just different landscapes, right?
yeah.
You being from Ontario, you understand that. Like, it is different
Oh,
in
yeah.
a complete way, and it's just wonderful. Wonderful disc golf courses everywhere.
Yeah. Great.
Awesome.
Well, thanks again, Spencer.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Spencer. We'll
No
talk to you again
problem.
soon.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thanks.
You bet. Well, Daryl, you know what? I think we're going to call an audible tonight.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, we've got Chantel's interview recorded, and we can play that at any time.
Yeah.
And I think we might have a guest a little early, do we?
We do.
All right.
We
Well,
go straight in for him.
why don't we go to Thomas, and I'm going to do an intro for him. So our next guest is no stranger to winning Canadian A-tiers, or to this podcast for that matter. He started the year with a win in Lakeland, Florida, played 29 more events, including Disc Golf Pro Tour events and a European trip. Just this past weekend, he took the MPO win at the Ontario Provincial Championships and will be heading to Australia soon. So let's welcome...
Good evening,
guys,
Thomas.
how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, we learned something tonight, and that was in talking with Spencer, that apparently you guys might be close enough. We could have just had you both on at the same time. Is that right?
Oh yeah, he's about 5 minutes down the road from me.
There you go, small town. I'm glad when I was looking, because I think his PDGA still says he's from Huntsville, and I'm like, and I think yours says Toronto, and I'm going, they can't be that close. I don't think they-
How does it make sense? Yeah.
Well, we were talking about in your intro there. We were looking at things, and Daryl and I have played 8 sanctioned tournaments this year, plus some other events, and we thought we had a pretty busy season. You know, I went out to nationals, I did that. Then we talked to Spencer. He does 20 events, TD's at least 3 tournaments. And then we're taking a look at your year, and we see that you've played 30 tournaments, you've traveled overseas, you've held clinics, and you've been on podcasts like nobody's business. How are you doing it all? How are you feeling? What's the year been like?
Man, it's definitely busy, and especially like this time of year, even with everything going on, like, yeah, it seems nonstop. I have, like sponsorships, things, discussions going on. I have like, I think on Friday I have 2 lessons set up. On the weekend I have my 2 Big Maple events. And then Monday I pack up and fly out to Australia on Tuesday. So it's like still very much go, busy schedule. And then, 3 more tournaments to finish off the season.
Oh, wow.
Or the year, I guess.
You're supposed to be in the off season now. You know, you're going to start be taking it easy, right?
No one told me that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with
Good to see.
with your Big Maple events, is that something that, have you done that in past years, or was this the first year that you did them? Because we know when we talked to you earlier in the year, you were just doing them out on the West Coast in BC, and now you've brought them back over to Ontario as well.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, this was the first year I've done the Big Maple events. I've always kind of dreamt of like doing an event like that, especially since participating in similar style events like the Sexton Shootout or McBeast Challenge or different like fun little side events like that. And I figure I have a big enough presence in Canada to be able to draw some people to a similar format. And
Yeah.
I always had a blast at the ones that I participated in. And so I figured it'd be a good way to create some enjoyment for people in the area and run some of them myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those were really well received, and you got a chance probably to meet some fans and maybe got some interesting stories, or had actually gave a fan a moment, right, that they might not have had
Right.
normally.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's
We know
cool.
the ones that you did out in the West Coast there with, you had Sophia with you as well. Do you have anyone with you on the East Coast?
Nope, it's just gonna be me. Hopefully, that's good enough for everyone. Yeah, Sophia was able to join me at Smith Lake Farm for a fun event that we did. We did like a champs versus chumps style format for one of the days that we were there, and then I actually had Chandler Fry and then Chance Dad tagging along with me when I was doing my Big Maple events,
Right.
and that was in like Whistler area near Squamish, and then the oh man, I forget what I know it's Stillwood, but I forget like the town that's nearby.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah. And there's so many
Yeah.
little areas in Vancouver, right? Langley
Right.
and Abbotsford
Yeah.
and Chilliwack, all these different areas around there. But
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
that's cool. So if we can ask you to start off, there was your 2024 season. As we said, it was jam packed. How did it go
Yeah.
from your perspective? Did you have some goals this year, and did you hit the ones that you were trying to hit?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, the main thing that I kind of wanted to do is just improve my overall performance and like confidence, I think, in my game. And I would say that there's definitely moments of that throughout the year where I felt really good about my ability to throw the disc and get it where I want to. And I think the continuous challenge of the tour events and tour courses that we play definitely put up a good battle against that goal. But I feel like I was definitely able to capture a lot of glimpses of that feeling, especially at the Canadian A tiers and other A tiers that I played throughout the season.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of fitting that you mentioned those A tiers, because we spoke to Chantel yesterday. We mentioned that we recapped all 11 Canadian A tiers this season, and
Uh-huh.
we mentioned to her that it was fitting that the first one that we did was Foxwood, and we spoke to
Right.
yourself and Chantel, and now for the 11th one, we get to speak to you again. So it's kind of come full circle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with all your travel this year, you still managed to play 5 of the 11 A tiers in Canada, and you were in both Western Canada and Eastern Canada. It wasn't like you just stayed out east. You won 4 of them, including Canadian nationals. How important is it for you to be playing at the Canadian A tiers? Is that something you're always going to try to work in your schedule when you can?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a huge part of like what I represent in my disc golf game. I really feel strong in a part of the Canadian disc golf scene, and so being able to show my face and play the local A tiers that people have also come to like cherish and love so much about their local scene. I want to be able to kind of come and join in and represent Canada and kind of give a good show of like what Canadian disc golf really has. Like, and it's always fun battling against the local Canadians in different regions. So like here in Ontario, it's kind of like Oz, Marty, Cam Zanini, and then out in BC, obviously Max and Casey are just absolute killers. So
Yeah.
yeah, I absolutely love doing it. I hope to do more in the future. I know there's still areas like Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Quebec, and obviously out on the far east coast, like PEI, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia areas that also definitely need some love too. So hopefully I can try to spread myself a little more across all the provinces, but I think doing a good amount on the west coast and then here in Ontario on the east side also was pretty good this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think all provinces need some Thomas time, if we want to put it that way.
Yeah. I know we've spoken before about it. It's just so hard with having you down on the Pro Tour and us having the Canadian Tour as well. It's trying to fit our A tiers in with when you might be near the border. So it's, or not even just yourself, but, you know, any of those pros down on the Pro Tour, just to get them to hop over the border and participate in some of these events, right? It's just trying to get everything lining up it's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
Once we figure it out, it'll be beneficial for the Canadian Pro Tour scene for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely will be.
Well, and with that too, Thomas, like you've done a great job at promoting to the players down there, because maybe to your own detriment a little bit, but that one A tier that you didn't win was the one that you invited Chandler up to play, and then he ended up taking that one down, hey?
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I love the competition too. I mean, if I didn't play against Americans, sure, I'd probably have maybe 2 or 3 more national titles. But I always love the competition. I think still one of my all-time favorite battles of a Canadian tournament that I played was the 2019 Canadian National Championships out in PEI, battling against Nate Sexton and Paul Macbeth for national title. Was still one of the coolest battles I think I've ever had. So. Right. It's always more thrilling, more exciting, more entertaining for the people there at the event as well, when the biggest names of the sport are able to come up.
Yeah. And it probably elevates your play too, when it's like national pride on the line and you want to keep that in Canada and hopefully not let it go, even if it is one of the best players in the world, right? So
right, I know. And I'm a little concerned that because Canadian Nationals will be where the RIP was held this year.
Yeah.
I don't want Gannon to come back. He will almost guaranteed probably win if he does anything close to what he did this year.
Well, maybe we can talk to Daryl there, Thomas, and we can have the normal tee pads, and then maybe it's just make a Gannon tee pad and just shove it even further back or something like that.
Yeah. I don't think that'll stop him. I think he'll need like a Mando on every single hole, force him to throw out of bounds to even have a chance, because he'll probably make the putt par anyway.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. Well, why don't we get to the Ontario Provincials that happened this weekend? You were just at USDGC the previous week. When did you get up to Huntsville, Muskoka? Did you go straight up, or?
So yeah, I drove down to USDGC and was down there for 2 weeks, and then left about Monday afternoon because I had to be part of the Disc Golf Pro Tour basket testing program that they're doing. So left Charlotte around like 2-3 p.m. on Monday, drove all through Monday into late evening, stopped just at a little motel for a couple hours, kept driving up until I made it all the way back home. Kind of later on Tuesday evening, kind of relaxed a little bit at home for a day on Wednesday, and then went straight up to Huntsville to play a practice round on both courses for the weekend.
Right. Yeah. So we spoke to Spencer earlier on. He let us know about the courses. Have you played these courses before? We know one of them was a pop-up course, but from what we understand, they're not too far from you anyway.
Right. Yeah. No, it's only about an hour, 20 minutes to the pop-up golf course that we played, and then about an hour 40 to the Wolf Tracks course that we ended up playing for the tournament. And Wolf Tracks I had played twice before, just for fun, casually going up with my uncle. Right. And then, this is like my second time going up there to really play. And I got that round in on Thursday just to kind of get a feel for the course, and then played my 3 tournament rounds on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
All right. Is that kind of what you need? You know, can you kind of get a course dialed in 1 or 2 practice rounds?
Yeah, especially if I'm familiar with it. So like a lot of it was kind of just testing how my abilities were on the course, like making sure that I'm not like thinking it's this one type of shot and realizing, oh no, it's like this stability of disc. And
right. Yeah.
So it's just kind of adjusting into that, like my bag of this like time of year versus when I played it 2 years ago. and my bag stabilities of that time of year. So all the lines are pretty familiar, but I would say 2 rounds is usually typically what I try to get on almost any course I play for any type of tournament.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and with these courses, Spencer was saying that Muskoka area is starting to become kind of a hotbed of disc golf. Is that an area that you would find yourself going to more regularly when you're in Ontario? Is that an area you'd like to play in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've lived in Muskoka my entire life. My parents bought a cottage up here the year before I was born, so we've always had a cottage up in the Muskokas, and I've absolutely had been a pleasure playing here and living up here for that entire time. And so the fact that the disc golf scene is really growing around the Muskoka area is a huge bonus, and I really enjoy the whole scenery of Muskoka, but as well playing disc golf in it is even better.
Yeah. Yeah, we're sold on it. This podcast has helped us introduce us to so many courses, Thomas, that we want to play now. And this is just another one on that list for sure, this whole area. So if we can get to the tournament, we're looking at PDGA Live. And when we looked at that for the Ontario Provincials MPO division, it was pretty much a battle for second place, as you were on fire, started out of the gates. And I want to give people a little bit of a quick recap for anyone who hasn't checked the scores or wasn't watching. So what I have here is that round one, you go out and you shoot a 1043 rated -11, and you got that score with 11 birdies, no bogeys. And then Calvin Rueda and Jake Giel, they're tied for second, but they're still 6 strokes behind you. So quite the hot round to get started, that's for sure. So you got to be feeling good at that point going, okay, I think I got my game dialed in.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt really good about my game. That 11 under was pretty killer. Just really didn't get into almost any trouble that round. Missed a couple birdie opportunities from circle 2 and maybe threw some upshot not as close as I could have, but I never really got into a place where I was like, oh man, this is going to be a really tough up and down for par. And had a little bit more of that the second round. Had a very slow start, including a bogey on one of the easiest par 5s on the course.
Okay.
And then had to really fight back hard with 8 under on the back 9 to get to that double-digit score that I kind of had set for myself before the tournament. I was like, okay, I want to try to go out there and shoot double digits every round, and I was able to do that the first 2 rounds at least.
Well, in that second round, if we could add to that, is you started, okay, we'll say it's Thomas slow. I don't know if it would be slow for anyone else to have a bogey on there, but then you finish it off with a bunch of birdies and you get an eagle on hole 18. What, was that, would you have put that eagle on your possibility card, or what happened? How did that one come about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just about hitting a very specific type of line on the final hole. It's a turnover shot about 420 something feet, and you just have to hit this one really narrow corridor out on the upright of the hole. And if you hit it and have a good angle and a good turn to your disc, then you can absolutely glide all the way down to the green. And so that's what I did. I threw my understable mid just really hard at that gap and just let it slowly drift down to the right the entire way, and left me with about a 35 footer, I'd say, for eagle, which I was very much convinced I needed to make to get to that double digits under par that I was hoping to shoot.
Oh yeah, and that's awesome. And you did that. So then with the rest of the field, Cam Zanini and Ezra Lockington actually moved up to second place that round, but they're, you're still 12 strokes ahead of those two. So then you get into the third day and you get to round 3, and we're just going to say it almost looks like maybe you mailed it in a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So with that one there, you get a 975 rated -2. Thomas Hums shoots the hot round with a 1035 -10. And then it puts him and Cam tied for second place at -16. You have a -23. Was the third round, if we're going to be serious a bit, did you just kind of go, hey, I've got this in the bag, I'm just going to play a nice safe game, or what happened on that one?
Oh no, it was very much the opposite of safe. I was doing dumb aggressive things, especially it felt like on the last couple holes, and not even intentionally, honestly. Like hole 15 is one of the like more iconic holes out on that course. It's a 640-foot par 4, and you have about 550 feet of fairway before there's this golf green just before the basket, and you just like kind of lay up short of the green, pitch over and take an easy birdie.
Yeah.
And I threw my second most overstable disc off the tee, but somehow it flipped up and went 600 feet and
Yeah,
landed about 1 foot onto the golf green and ended up taking a silly par. But that kind of like almost felt like my whole round was just like, okay, that didn't really work out how I thought it was. Like, it just, I don't know if it was the focus of just like feeling like so casual, like, okay, yeah, I can walk this in no matter what I do, and wasn't being super precise about my landing zones and shot shapes.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like if the moment was there where I needed to really like focus up and clutch up and get all the birdies I needed to win, it would have happened. But yeah, was able to kind of breeze through the round and still take home the win by a decent margin.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that OB shot, because we just spoke to Spencer to bring it up to you, and he said, yeah, speak to Thomas about a 600-foot layup going OB.
Yeah. I know.
We didn't know that it was 1 foot.
Head.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And that was the shot that you posted just on your Instagram just prior, right?
Yeah.
You had posted that shot on your Instagram.
That was the video that I posted on Instagram. Not that shot, but
that hole. Yeah.
And it's crazy because the one that I posted on my Instagram, like the disc gets a full like S turning flight through the air, and that one landed about 30 feet short of the green.
Right.
And I threw my second most overstable disc on a hyzer that flipped up to flat and faded, and somehow that ended up on the green.
Wow.
It's crazy.
So when you come up to an event like this one, Thomas, after just playing USDGC and an event with such a kind of hard and iconic course, did you find like, does that help dial you in? Because does this course feel just as difficult as what like these courses up here in Muskoka feel as difficult as the USDGC?
Oh no, not even close. It like the USDGC is such a mentally difficult and challenging course. The lines you have to hit, the accuracy you have to display on that course is like almost unlike any other that we play. And then kind of changing gears and going to a course like Wolf Tracks where you still have to be accurate off the tee, but there's absolutely zero punishment for almost any kind of I don't know, I'll say Thomas inaccuracy because you can definitely get kicks in the woods and get into difficult positions. But I almost feel like I should be able to scramble a par almost no matter how bad of a tee shot I throw on that course, just because it's not going to immediately give me an out of bounds stroke or kick me into a place that I can't try to scramble from for par. So it was a huge relief on me to be able to go out there, play my like semi-aggressive game plan, just throw the shots that I feel really comfortable with, and be able to get the birdies, eagles, and everything on that course to have a really hot score, but not be stressed out the entire time of like any kind of kick or skip that might cost me 2-3 strokes.
Right. And I wanted to ask you about that, because I think we mentioned this the last time, or maybe the first time that you were on, because that was earlier on in the season. We had watched the video that you did with Chris Clemens talking about dialing in, not going OB, and trying to keep it, because he has a very good fairway hit percentage rate. Is that something that you're still focused on? Is it? I mean, it's one of those things like for an amateur, we got to know about not rounding and you know, all the basics.
Yeah,
for you, your kind of things that you need to work on. I'm not saying you have to work on things, but things that you know, your mentality and your strategy, is that something that's still a thing that you need to work on?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's still, I would say, the number one thing in my game that I need to work on is my accurate placement shots and choosing the correct shots to dial back and give me the highest percentages to land in good but still scoreable positions, because I can probably try to just take my putter or like really overstable fairway drivers and just chip into different landing zones on the course. But
Right.
the tour is so hard that you don't always get rewarded by just playing the absolute safest.
Yeah.
Gameplay,
Right.
you still need to attack in a certain level of aggressiveness to be able to get birdies on any of the tour courses. So it's definitely something that I'm still working to develop, just that like tour level of aggressiveness, but accuracy to make sure that I'm still in scoring positions and not leaking them out of bounds like I have commonly done in the past.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the reason why we're having you on here, obviously, we're recapping the 11th A tier across Canada, and we've done our fantasy podcast where we all pick teams and things like that. The good thing about it is it's given us a great opportunity to learn more about Eastern Canadian pros that maybe we wouldn't have known about, and we're hoping to put those names in people's minds of people out here in the West Coast. What are your thoughts on how that field is and the talent is out there in the East Coast and how it's developing? I say East Coast because we always get
But Ontario, Quebec,
sorry.
East Coast. Everyone's like, we got to talk about the Maritimes, but
past Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
No, I mean the scene has grown exponentially over the years. Like I remember when I started first playing on the pro scene back in 2016, there was really only like 2-3 people that really competed heavily for the wins, like in the disc golf scene, and they were like the 1,000 rated players, and now there's probably, I don't know, like 6 or 7 maybe 1,000 rated players that are all able to compete on a top level and have a good weekend and win a tournament. So it's really exciting to see, and the talent pool is getting younger and bigger and better. So the courses are getting tougher and more plentiful. So there's a lot more people getting introduced to the game, and I think it's all just grown really, really well. And I'm excited to see the continued growth of the sport and the competition levels in Ontario and further east into the future.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as we kind of wrap that part up, Thomas, most people, we kind of started with this, most people would think it's a good time to rest and relax, but that's not for Thomas Gilbert, because you're going to be going to represent Canada at the Whiff Diff Championships in Australia. So how excited are you about this trip?
Oh, super excited. I think like Australia and New Zealand have been at the absolute top of like the bucket list of places to go. And so to be able to have the opportunity to go play disc golf in Australia and represent Team Canada for the World Flying Disc Team Championship is pretty amazing. I was lucky enough to be able to play on the Pan Am team last year in Georgia, and played with Sophia and a bunch of other really great Canadians, and was able to take down the gold there. And I think we have as strong of a team as anybody does as far as the rosters go for all the different countries. So I am thrilled to see how we can battle it out and try to maybe capture another gold medal at the World Team Championships.
Yeah, that's exactly. We spoke to Karen Martel last week, and she mentioned exactly the same thing. We were talking about it, and she said, "Have you looked at the rosters? Like Team Canada is pretty stacked." Yeah,
and the thing about that too is like not only is Team Canada stacked, there was still probably another team's worth of players now that we've kind of gone through that could have come as well. Like we're just getting so deep with talent in Canada. It's going to be great to see how we perform against 24 other countries I think are going to be there.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how many different countries are representing at this tournament.
Yeah. So when you head down there, how long are you planning on staying in Australia and in the area?
So I'll be in Australia for 4 weeks. I'll be doing the team championship, the Aussie Open, and then the Australian Disc Golf Championships, as well as an extra week after that to visit some family that I have in Sydney.
Okay.
But as well, even after that whole trip, then I'll be going to New Zealand for another 2 weeks of just sightseeing, vacationing, and enjoying all that New Zealand has to offer. Because this is the perfect time to do it when I kind of am in my off season and don't really have as many responsibilities. I can see one of the absolute biggest bucket list places that I've wanted to visit my entire life.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, I don't know, because this is where I might be geeking out a little bit, but when you go to New Zealand, are you going to be doing any of the Lord of the Rings type Hobbit touring? Is that anything you're interested in?
Yeah, definitely. We already have it planned out for, I think it's December 4th and 5th. I'm going to be in Auckland, and that's like right where Hobbiton is, like where the Shire was filmed. So
Yes.
already planning on doing some stuff down there.
Yeah.
You can't go to New Zealand and not go and see that stuff, Jeremy.
No, I want to see, and I want to see too, Thomas, with your height and everything else. You just got to go in there and bump your head like Gandalf or something like that. So
that'll be funny.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, no, that's awesome. Well, we appreciate that you've taken so much time tonight to talk with us. But before we let you go, is there anything you want to shout out? Any sponsors or anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for any Ontario listeners going on, we do have the Battle of Big Maple going on this weekend. Still 2 days left to sign up if you are wanting to come out and enjoy some fun disc golf. I brought a couple of the Big Maple. Oh, that's upside down. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, Big Maple. Oh gosh, it's hard in the camera. It's here. But yeah, Big Maple discs, and it's going to be an awesome time for sure. And big shout out to ThoughtSpace and all my other sponsors for supporting me throughout the season, and all of my fans and family and friends that as well support me to make it all possible. Like it's such an amazing opportunity to play disc golf as my full-time job. So big thank you and shout out to everybody that helps make that possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And here's
There you go.
for anyone who's looking for it, this is what you're going to search up on Disc Golf Scene. So
There it's there.
There you go.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Tom, up until this year, I didn't have any ThoughtSpace discs in my bag. And then I ended up getting a Mantra in my bag. And I was at Canadian Nationals, and I threw that thing that was probably every single hole almost. If I needed some distance or some flight, it's now one of my go-to discs. And then afterwards, after you celebrated your win coming down hole 18, I saw you at the tent there, and now I've got a Construct. So I think you've slowly started converting me from not just MVP, but having ThoughtSpace as well. So
absolutely, yeah. No, they're great discs. Definitely recommend anybody to try them out.
Yeah.
And I should say thank you as well, and thank you to Jeremy. I just pointed it out there, but thank you for signing my disc as well. I'm slowly getting the full collection. I've got Joe Henderson, I've got yourself, I've got Sophia,
Chantel.
No, I don't have Chantel signed yet.
Oh, we'll work
I've got
on
her
that.
disc, but we're gonna get it signed.
Got to work on that Nationals next year.
There you go.
Exactly. So, Thomas, have an amazing trip in Australia. Thank you for always being generous with your time and coming on the podcast when we ask you. We're looking so forward to following along on PDGA Live and seeing your performance in all of Team Canada's. It's going to be a great finish to the season. So thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Thomas.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks.
See you later. And Daryl's got his button there, and look at that.
There we go.
Thomas disappears just like that by the click of a button.
There you go.
No, that's awesome. It's so great that he was able to come on. Like you said, the first Canadian A tier Thomas was on, the last Canadian A tier he's on. So
it's awesome.
Now
we're just so lucky to be able to get to chat to these amazing people.
Yeah. You know, especially as we're learning the whole podcast game here, and it's guests like that help make us even better, right?
There you go.
And speaking of great guests, we've got one
next?
more for you.
We do.
So let's roll right into that interview.
Sounds good. There it is.
All right, Daryl, let's get to our next guest. Our next guest is from Windsor, Ontario. She is one of our top Canadian FPO players and has had one heck of a year. She's played in 26 PDGA events this year, including many Disc Golf Pro Tour events. She finished ninth at Throw Pink a couple weeks ago and just won the Ontario Provincial Championships. Let's welcome Chantel Budinsky to the show.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty good over here. It's exciting for us to kind of go full circle from the first Canadian A tier that we did to interviewing you and Thomas. And now it's only fitting the last A tier of the season we get to interview you again. So it's exciting for us.
Yes, and I can't believe the year's already finished. It's crazy.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just gone by so fast.
Yeah, like 11 A tiers in the blink of an eye. Foxwood Open
Wow.
all the way through to Ontario Provincials. And we're so excited that you're helping us cap off the final one because we've actually been able to do a show for every A tier, if you can believe it.
Wow. Working hard.
Promoting Canadian disc golf, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So speaking of that, why don't we start by congratulating you on winning Ontario Provincials. Way to go.
Oh, thank you.
And if we can, why don't we start a little bit with the courses? So this was kind of up in the Muskoka area. Have you been up and played those courses before?
I've been there, but I haven't played the courses, so this was my first time seeing them, and they were amazing. I think this time of year too just like highlighted everything. It was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
It seems like there's certain courses you have to play at certain times of the year. Like you want to get out to
Yeah.
BC during the summer. You want to go to Vermont and, Ontario, that area in the fall. Those colors looked
Yeah.
amazing.
so is that a place up there in that Muskoka region? A lot of maple trees, all the reds, oranges, yellows. Is that what you were getting?
Yes, it was. They were amazing, and they were so vibrant while we were there. But it's funny because we were there for a week, and by the end of it, it was just getting a little less leaves on the tree. It's like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be winter so fast.
So you did end up heading there about a week early. Were you getting some good practice rounds in ahead of time?
We went straight from Throw Pink and we drove there. I took 2.5 days off just because I have a knee injury, so I was hoping that it would get better. It didn't really, but I got a round in at each course.
Okay. Yeah, well, and maybe that's a good point to ask you about that. Tell us about the knee injury. How did that end up happening?
I'm not sure what happened, but at the first day of Throw Pink, when I was warming up, I could hear it was clicking, and it just felt really loose. Then the next day, that's when the problem started, and just every day it kind of got worse. And then since we headed straight to Huntsville right after, I was hoping the couple days off of it would fix it, but it didn't, unfortunately. And it's my last tournament of the year, so I kind of just fought through it, and now I get to figure out what's going on.
And where was the pain? I know you'd mentioned that putting was the big problem for you. So how
Yeah,
exactly did the pain show itself?
it's like the bottom right of my knee. Everything that I looked up kind of was telling me it was a torn meniscus, but I'm not sure. And then by the end of it, the top of my knee was starting to hurt. So I think just babying everything, and like my left leg started hurting because I was limping for a whole week, and I was just so ready to be done.
Well, there you go. Do you have a good physiotherapist that you can call up now in the off season and kind of go to work on it, or?
I'm hoping to get one. I have my eyes on someone, so hopefully that works out.
Nice. Good. Well, we hope that heals quick, and it's like you said, it's kind of nice. It's not nice for it to happen, but nice that it waited until the very end of the season to happen.
Yes, thank goodness.
Well, speaking about Ontario Provincials, if we go to that side of it, it was so fun following along on PDGA Live because it seemed like a back and forth. It's one of those ones that I don't know if they recorded it, if there was anyone there. I know Park Pro wasn't, but if there was anybody recording, it's got to be a good one to watch. So I have a little bit of a recap of the rounds. So if I can jump into that, that's where I'll start.
Yeah.
All right. So in round one, you shot a 948 rated -3. It gave you a 4-stroke lead, and you were the only one to shoot under par. So after that first round, knowing you had all of this stiff and tough Ontario competition behind you, how did you feel after that first round?
I was feeling good just because of like my knee injury. I was surprised that I actually played so well. But I knew that I could shoot better there, and I was hoping that I would shoot a better second round. I don't want to give any spoilers, but
Well, with that, why don't we get to that? Yeah, so round two, you shoot a +1, so not quite that better than -3. But Rebecca Dawn and Colleen McInnes, they decided they were going to pick it up round two and close the gap and become 1 and 2 strokes away from your lead that you had. And that was where I was going to insert the knee injury, but we talked about it. So was it kind of really starting to ramp up a little bit there? Is that where you started to feel it was more in round two?
yeah, round two, I think just like walking all day and obviously like putting and throwing, it every morning it felt better, and then right as I would warm up, it would go back to being how it was the day before. So, round two was getting hard to putt, which the first day it was okay. I actually made some decent putts. The second day I was noticing that I was starting to pull right because I mean, if you haven't seen me putt, I do like a full lunge, and I wasn't getting the ending, so I wasn't like going all the way up. So everything was just off. My timing was terrible, but I was getting close enough to the basket where I didn't have to putt too much. But definitely not how I wanted the round to go. And then yes, I my lead was down to 1 and 2 with Colleen, so I was a little bit nervous for the next day because I knew it was going to be a long bomber course. So
Yes.
yeah.
I don't want to stay on this injury for too much, but you mentioned about putting. Did you feel it like when you were driving or any other, like when you were stepping up as well?
It was it was interesting because I could feel it during my throw, but it wouldn't really affect how I was throwing. Like off the tee, I was
Right.
doing pretty well. It was
Yeah.
my up shots, it was approaching, like I really rely on like a spin throw to the basket from like 120 and in, and I kept leaving those so short because I just didn't have the power coming from my legs.
Right.
And then my putts were just not good. I don't think oh yeah, it was just not a good weekend for putting, but
Well, and any of us who have watched you, which Daryl and I have seen a lot of your clips in that, we're custom or used to seeing your back kick there at the end of your putts, right? So that's kind of one of the signatures of a Chantel Budinsky putt. So, but before we go on to round three, I wanted to ask you, I know that Jessica wasn't on your card, but she would have been close to you. I saw that she hit the ace on, was it 16? It looks like, or
yes,
let
it was
me.
full 16.
Yeah, and how was that? Were you close enough to share in the excitement at all? Just being a card behind, or?
Yeah, we were on the hole behind and we heard them all cheering and we were like, "Is that an ace?" Because they sounded unsure. So
Okay.
they did they didn't actually see it go in, but they heard it and they're like, "Oh my gosh." So she ran up
Oh,
there and it was in, so we heard cheering again. So when we caught up to them, we all got to kind of celebrate for her.
That's awesome.
oh, good. And all aces are good aces, but tell us a little bit about that hole. What would have been like to hit that one? Was it a straight shot? Was there, well, obviously if you couldn't see it, it couldn't have been that straight, right? So,
It's a shorter hole, but it's really tightly wooded. There's a lot of rocks and it's a blind shot. So that's a really good ace to get. And good thing it hit because that hole is notorious for rollaways.
oh, well, there you go. All right, and now if we go over to round three, that looked like it was a battle for everyone out there. Not a single FPO was managed to post a score under par. And Daryl had noticed this fact here. Daryl, why don't you tell Chantel about
Hmm.
what you picked up about the course?
Yeah, I think it was hole 12. It just seemed like it was such a hard hole that nobody parred the hole. Everybody was taking bogeys and double bogeys on that hole. You want to tell us a little about what made that hole so hard?
Yes, of course. So it was really windy and it wasn't very windy when we were practicing. So I think it just caught us off guard. And
Right.
there's a lot of OB. Hole 12, it's like a blind shot down to a pond and then you have to throw over the pond. And it's a pretty long hole, so you have to get pretty close to the pond if you want to go over. And I think everyone was just struggling because we had a huge headwind. So you're stabling up, they're not going to go as far, or it's going to flip over completely. So I think everyone just had a really hard time managing the whole, like, some went right, someone left. I don't know if anyone actually went over the pond on their second shot. I'm not sure, but yeah, a lot of OBs were taken.
Yeah. It seemed like, yeah. There was a few holes that were playing over par, but when I looked at that one, I'm like, there was something stood out about that hole that it had to make it a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it was already
Yeah.
difficult without the wind, so.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on that too, Chantel? Do you think every course should have a hole like that? Or if it's playing that difficult, should something change with it? Do you think maybe they should shorten up the tee pad to that lake throw? Or what would you think in situations like that?
I think that it's okay to have a difficult hole. Maybe not every single hole, but just because of the fact that the wind was so strong, you can't really do anything about that because
Mhm.
it is a parable, even a birdieable hole when it's not super windy. So I think it's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, as we continue on with round three, Rebecca and Colleen were trying to build on their lead that they had started after, not lead, I guess, but that closing of the gap from round two. And they really pushed it on the front nine. But then Rebecca's back nine didn't quite go as planned, but Colleen tied things up and was right there with you until hole 16. Now, I think when we talked to you before, you're not much of a score watcher, but did you know that she was tied with you? Was Chris telling you or anything like that?
No, I had no idea. I actually thought that I kind of blew it at that point. I thought that Colleen had at least a couple strokes on me. So
Right.
I think it was hole 18. I tee off, and then I'm like, okay, so am I like close to third? Am I second? And Chris is like, just par the hole. Par the hole. I'm like, par the hole? Okay. So that was it.
Hmm.
I had no idea
Oh,
what was going
Oh
wow.
on.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
really interesting because I'm not a scorecard watcher, and we've spoken to other people as well who have said that when they're playing against somebody and they know, okay, well, they've just taken a bogey, I've taken a birdie, like they can they don't really watch the score, but they can tell um, roughly what the scores are based on the play of the card, right? But you had no
Yes.
idea. You thought you were a couple strokes behind still.
Yeah, I just knew that I had some really bad holes, and Colleen was playing really clean. I think she had a couple holes that she struggled with, but just in my head, I thought I was playing way worse. So I don't know, I just didn't think I had a shot at it.
oh, wow.
Wow.
And so now you said Chris doesn't tell you too much there. He just told you at the end, but would you prefer that if you were kind of maybe like I know for me, if I was getting down on myself because maybe I didn't think I was where I would want to be, would you want him to tell you anything, or do you just want to play your game and let it be what it'll be?
I usually ask him for information if I'm struggling.
That's fair.
I think it's just better that I don't know because I'm not going to change my game plan regardless.
Right.
Um, so I don't want that extra pressure.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. So then how were you feeling at the end of this one, being that it was probably both a bit of a mental battle, just being so tightly tied up or close to the other players, knowing these players, having battled against them before, and then add on top of that, the physical struggles, were you just like ready to lie down or grab a beer? Where were you at that point?
Yeah, I was honestly just worried about finishing the round because it
Wow.
was getting to a point where I felt like I I was like losing balance and stuff. So I just really wanted to get through the round. It was the last tournament of the season and it's like one of the big ones in Canada. So I wasn't too worried about winning. I just wanted to finish and feel good that I got through
Yeah.
it.
Well, you certainly did that.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, where would you rank this win then amongst all the wins that you've had or even the ones this year? Is it up there at the top or top three? Where would you put it?
It's kind of weird how I feel like with my feelings about my wins is did I play the tournament how I felt like I should have? So I feel like I could have scored a lot better at these courses. So obviously, I'm really happy that I got another provincials win. That's awesome, and it's big. So I'm very happy, but it's hard to feel super proud when I played significantly below my rating. And just like my feelings, like my mentality during the rounds, I was kind of down just because I was like, oh, like I'm injured again, and it was just a little bit frustrating at the time. But now that I've had a couple days, I get to kind of think about it and be proud of myself for getting through it and actually taking home the win even with an injury. Yeah, it's definitely up there, especially with the Canadian tournaments.
Right.
I think that I'll always want to take down Foxwood just because you get to throw a pink spot. But yeah, I think the Pro Tour stops, if I'm getting a top 10, that's probably going to trump a win in Canada, if you know what I mean. Maybe
Oh,
not
yeah.
Nationals. I think I get to play Nationals next year, so hopefully I can take
Yeah.
that one down.
That's
Yeah, and
awesome. Yeah.
we're quite excited to hear that it's going to be at those 4 amazing courses out there in Ontario. And I think both Daryl and I are putting it on our calendar and hoping that we can put
Yeah.
it in ink and not just in pencil.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. Well, you'd mentioned throw pink, and we were so excited watching that and seeing you hit that leaderboard. And I can tell you, we had listeners of the show, and then Daryl and myself. Like, I got so many screenshots of you at the top when you were at the beginning of the tournament. You were in first place, and everyone was like, "Look, Chantel's in first place," and we were all celebrating through text. So it was awesome to watch that. And when we look at this, this was your third best event this year, and your top 4 event rate, and then the other thing was your top 4 event ratings were all in 2024. So it's just really a sign of how well this season went. And even with, which we can't imagine, like, we you're very good at posting on social media and everybody gets to feel like they're part of your journey. And this year really seemed like it was a journey of ups and downs, but to see all of that wonderful, those finishes, and that you're just improving through it all. And it's just like, from all of us, it's like, congratulations. We were crying with you, and then we're cheering with you. I just got so much emotion from it. So
Oh, well, thank you, because it really means a lot, and hearing all of your support, it's awesome.
yeah, perfect. So we know that you're going to be ready. I don't want to dwell on that because I don't want to get too much more emotional. Okay. So we're sure you're ready to take the time off that we were talking about, but have you started to think about 2025? And obviously you said nationals should be on your list. Is there anything more you're thinking? Do you want to do another DGBT heavy season again like you did this year if the knee and your body cooperates with it?
Can I just
Yeah.
add one more question to that? Like I'm just curious, if you did want to get your Pro Tour card, like when do you have to get that? Is there a certain deadline? Like when do you have to start planning for next year for that?
So I think the top 45 in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings get a tour card. So I was 40th at the end of the season. So I should have a full tour card again.
Nice.
And I plan to do basically the same as this year, mostly the Midwest. And hopefully we get to go to Europe for Worlds. That would be
Nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, just planning for the same kind of year. Hopefully the knee's better. I'm sure it will be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Well, and with that, I know a lot of our listeners, now that we've kind of covered all the A tiers, we've gone from, as we said, from Victoria to PEI to Alaska, and then down even to New Hampshire, and the people that we've had a chance to talk to. But I know a lot of people would like to know, is there any chance Chantel will come out Western Canada at some point? Do you think you'll ever make the trip this way?
I do really want to get out that way. I don't know if we will be doing it next year. I heard that maybe Worlds is going to be out west in 2026. They're
Yeah.
putting a bid in.
That's
I'm
right,
pretty
yeah.
sure. So maybe that's what will get me out that way. It just depends, money wise, and if the schedule works, then I would love to go out that way because those courses look beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some good ones out here for sure. Maybe we'll have to try and earmark her for Falcon's Flight or something. What do you think, Daryl?
Yeah. I mean, Thomas and Sophia have done those clinics out at
Oh, at Smith
the
Lake,
Smith
that
Lake
was where
Farm.
in
Yeah.
Vancouver area.
Yeah, exactly. So, Chantel, Thomas, and Sophia all running clinics.
Oh, that would be an
That'd be good.
amazing set of clinics for sure.
Yeah.
They'd sell it. They're already selling out, and they haven't even been scheduled yet.
There you go.
So, no, that's awesome. We appreciate all the time that you've taken with us tonight, Chantel. But before we let you go, we want to give you a moment to shout out your sponsors, or if there was any other supporters or anything else that you wanted to say.
Yes, of course. So thank you so much, Prodigy Disc. They got me to all these tournaments, and I couldn't have done it without them. Thank you to Disc Republic, Goat Towel, and Drive Bags, and of course Christopher, because he holds the bag, and I couldn't walk without him. So
Awesome.
That's great. Well, also too, we should say, everybody out there, if you haven't been following Chantel on Instagram, check her out at Miss Frisbees. Check her out at Miss Frisbees on YouTube as well. Tons of different things there. Oh, there we go. Daryl's got some of your posts right there in front of us. Oh, look at that. Awesome. Yeah, there's those colors in those trees up there in that post. And I think even too, yeah. Oh yeah, there's so much good coverage in there. So check it all out for sure. And we appreciate you coming on the show. We wish you the best for next season, and we can't wait. We know we'll be talking to you because you'll be winning even more next year.
awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
Well, Daryl, those two podcaster guys, they're pretty awesome, I'd have to say.
I tune into that podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always nice when we do a pre-record because you and I actually get a chance to watch and see what it looks like for the listeners. So we hope you guys are enjoying it. I didn't mind it there.
No.
Yeah.
It's good, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
it's something like we all almost know what we're doing.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
50 episodes in.
But not only that, amazing guests, right? Chantel, Budinsky, Thomas Gilbert, Spencer Yooung. Hit it out of the park again, if we do say so ourselves. Yeah. Are we allowed to say that?
We're allowed to say that. And if you feel that way, why don't you hit that subscribe button?
Yeah.
Follow us on all our socials. We have some discs to give away now.
Yes, we do.
We do like a giveaway.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it has been a little bit, but now Spencer has given us Eclipse Crave from Ontario Provincials, as well as the Watt as there. So what we'll do is we're going to do a post. We'll get pictures from Spencer. We'll put up a post on Instagram. We're going to encourage you guys to follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, and then we're going to also ask you to follow Spencer's company, Gripped and Ripped.
All the details will be on the post.
Yeah, all of that good stuff. Tag a couple people, that type of thing. We'll give you multiple tries. We'll give away both discs. The only thing we won't do is we're not going to give both discs to the same person. We want to have two winners. That's my call.
Okay.
All right.
You made the call.
Okay.
Spencer, if you're still listening.
That's how we're going to roll it out, buddy.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. We do want to, so we thanked him. What else do we got here? I guess we're at secret word, are we?
We need a secret word.
Yeah.
If anyone's still in the chat, do we have a secret word?
Yeah, I'm trying to think from tonight's
600
show.
foot layup?
Yeah, 600 foot layup.
Layup could be the...
Muskoka. I like that because it's just a cool word.
A Muskoka layup.
Oh, yes. That's it.
That's what we need to do for now on. If we try and lay up and we go OB, you can say, it's one of those Muskoka layups.
One of those TG Thomas Gilbert Muskoka layups.
There you go.
So find a way to put that in the comments. Comment on our video. Let us know what you thought. We appreciate it so much. Remember to stay tuned for next week's episode. It's episode 50. We hope it's going to be awesome. It's the two of us, so you can throw questions at us. We might even have I don't know if we'll have a chance to bring anybody on, but we'll certainly get questions up on the screen from our listeners.
Yeah.
And kind of like our Ask Me Anything that we did. I don't know, when was that? Like that was episode 12
10.
Or something? 10?
Yeah, it was episode 10. Double digits, baby.
So we had a lot of fun with that one. Yeah, double digits, baby. That's right. And we will have a couple bloopers and other reels to show and some other things from a few of our listeners that have sent in too.
And to make sure that people are listening that far this late on in the episode, because I think people have already left by now and they're not going to know, Jeremy.
Oh.
That we have a big announcement coming up for maybe people in southern Alberta.
Yeah, maybe
Stay
for season 2 of Chain Out and maybe the start or early part of it.
Yeah, something interesting is going to happen. We'll have a big announcement coming up soon about that.
Yeah.
But you know what?
What?
I don't.
What?
Exactly. I don't want to win that Watt
Why not?
because
What would it do?
if I was to take that Watt to hole 10 at Hermitage,
Okay,
Wally's Way, you need a straight shot.
you do.
It's pretty tight cap, Jeremy.
It is.
If I
I've
take that Watt-
missed it a number of times myself.
Yeah. If I can get that to give it enough height, it'll actually go through all 3 triple Mandos. It's not the disc. The disc is a fantastic disc.
Yeah.
But if I throw it, it'll glide all the way to the basket.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah. Be the best shot I've ever thrown on that hole.
I'd say what a shot.
Yeah. It'll hit the chains.
Yes. Oh, it's going to hit the chains?
Yeah.
Cool.
Left side, though.
Left
know-
side's not good.
You know what? There's only one thing it'll do if it hits left side.
I'm going to hit left side, high, low. There's only one place it's going to go, and that is Chain Out!
Thanks, everybody.
See you next week, episode 50.
Stay tuned.
Bow, bow,